Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Igor Zhovka. He is the deputy head of the office of Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He joins us from Kyiv. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Zhovka, let's begin with the situation in Mariupol. What is the latest?
Well, unfortunately, the situation is not becoming better, despite promises of President Putin not to attack the Azovstal steel plant, where people are still left, Ukrainian armed forces and Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian wounded soldiers. It's still under attack, and unfortunately, no possibility for them to get evacuated from the humanitarian corridors. My president suggested an exchange of wounded Ukrainian soldiers and civilians to the wounded Russian soldiers. Unfortunately, no reaction. People from the city of Mariupol, I mean civilian people, are also not evacuated. More than 100,000 civilians left in the whole territory of Mariupol. And unfortunately, practically every day we try to establish humanitarian corridors, but the shellings are continue. The city is wiped down practically, no single building left untouched, and people are living in awful conditions without electricity, without food supplies, without water. So the situation is very difficult. We could not unblock the city by military means because we lack enough artillery and armored vehicles and tanks in order to block the city. So the only way is to have a humanitarian way, by way of negotiation, humanitarian corridors, that's what my president keeps suggesting every day. But unfortunately, no positive answer from Russians. They want Mariupol to be a symbolic victory for them. They want it surrender, but Ukrainian Mariupol will never surrender.
The Russians, are they making any progress since they launched this major operation in the Donbas? It's nearly over a week now. What are you seeing?
They are now still making the regroupings as far as the manpower is concerned, and they might start the offensive from day to day, practically every day. Now they have these artillery shellings all over the contact line and practically on the whole territory of Donbas. Besides that, they are trying to make an offensive from under Kharkiv, from the city of Izium, and trying to encircle Ukrainian armed forces in the Donbas. But we have one of the best experienced Ukrainian armed forces stationed in Donbas because, they are fighting this Russian aggression in Donbas since 2014, when Russia actually started its aggression against Ukraine, capturing Crimean part of Donbas. So they are well experienced, they are not so well equipped. So again, in this case, we need as much possible ground weapons and munitions as possible from other countries. So we would welcome France as well as other European Union members to help us in terms of weaponry.
Right. You had a visit, a symbolic visit on Sunday. Both the U.S. Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary of State, and the Defense Secretary of State said, and I'm quoting him, Ukraine can defeat Russia with the right equipment. We also heard your president express more confidence than usual. What has changed recently?
What has changed? The will of Ukrainian armed forces. That's what surprised, I think, all the world. So many so-called military experts would not give more than 3 or 5 days to Ukrainian armed forces in the beginning of the war. Now we're having a 61st day of war, and Ukrainians are struggling. Our armed forces are withdrawing, withstanding the Russian aggression. They are getting back Ukrainian cities and villages. We managed to kick out Russians from the north of my country, from around Kyiv, from Chernihiv and Sumy. So I think everyone is positively surprised by the strength, moral will of Ukrainian armed forces, and the myth about so-called second largest army, second strongest army in the world, meaning Russian army, has evaporated in Ukraine, definitely. So with the possession of the weapon we need, we just don't need any kind of weapon. We need concrete weapons on the ground. This is artillery systems and MLRS, armored vehicles and tanks. And yes, we still need weapons to defend the skies, like anti-missile warfare systems, anti-jets warfare systems. We are able to win this war. So I can only agree with the words of Mr. Austin, which he told to my president.
Right. France has also sent more sophisticated weapons recently. The French President Emmanuel Macron was just re-elected. Are you hoping that with this election now over with, there could be more and more sophisticated weapons flowing towards Ukraine?
My president has sent foremost congratulations to President Macron immediately. He was informed about the first results of the elections. Really, this is a huge success. I will be very honest and open with you. Huge success for all of us in Europe, not only for France, for Ukraine, definitely for other European Union members. That's a real good and, wise choice of French people. But yes, definitely, France is changing its position positively vis-a-vis the supply of weapons. So we count that after the re-election, being deprived of this political burden of campaign and whatever, your president would be even more stronger, even more active in supplying Ukraine with the sophisticated, heavy weaponry we badly need, with supporting the position of European Union on having more strict sanctions against the Russian Federation, including on energy, on supporting Ukraine in terms of its European integration, because my country badly needs the candidate status in June, and we hope that President Macron, with his wisdom and with his will and with his being the driver of European integration, would definitely support this with this idea and would reconvince his European Union partners.
Are you hoping that he will be able to convince France's closest ally in Europe, that is Germany, to give heavy weapons to your country and also to accept an oil embargo from the EU, because for now Germany has refused?
Well, I'm positively hoping on this. With his own example, with his own deeds and actions, he will reconvince the German leadership. My president is having constant dialogue with Chancellor Scholz. And again, the position of Germany changes, maybe a little bit slower, not that rapid as we could expect. But again, if France will join a Ukraine voice to Germany to help us with heavy weaponry, to help us with sanctions. Again, it's very important that in the sixth package, at least oil should be present, oil and oil products, and in this or that form, but without oil sanctions. The oil sanctions against Russian oil, this sixth package would be useless. We don't need the package for package. We need concrete immediate sanctions would immediately hurt Russia's economy. Yes, I know that it might be difficult for European countries, but it's one stake is there some potential, economic damages for your countries, but on the other stake, on the other plate is the lives of Ukrainians who are dying because every euro Russia earns from European countries, they immediately spend at the military industry for, producing additional ballistic missiles, tanks, and fighter jets, which kill Ukrainian civilians, Ukrainian mothers, children, civilians, and all the Ukrainians. So we are hoping for the leadership role of President Macron in this regard.
Right. Vladimir Putin, your president, says he's still open to meeting with him. But it seems the talks between you and the Russians are going nowhere. Is there any real hope beyond saying, I will talk to Putin, that this might actually happen?
However difficult it might be for my president and for any Ukrainian official to talk to Russian officials after all the world has seen the atrocities made by Russians in Bucha, Gostomel, Borodyanka, Irpin. My president keeps reiterating that he is ready for this. He is ready for the diplomatic solution of the war with Russia. Ukrainian delegation is ready to proceed its work. They are having the consultations in the VTC format with the Russian side. But the problem is that Russian side is not ready for real diplomatic talks, for real resultful negotiations. They're probably waiting what will happen in the Battle of Donbas. They are dragging on the time in order to have the most stronger positions. But again, President Macron was was using his own time to talk to President Putin to convince him to stop the war. So we'll see. We really appreciate what President Macron is doing. Every effort of every leader to bring President Putin at the negotiation table would be appreciated. Once again, Ukrainian side is ready.
Right. Just as a conclusion, do you think that Donbas will be the deciding factor over whether this is concluded militarily or through negotiations?
Well, that's what we understand from the Russian position. For us, Battle of Donbas is the battle for Ukrainian territory. So we are not thinking in terms of whether or not negotiation or whatever. We have to defend our own land. Again, the aggression started from the Crimean Donbas. We will not trade any single inch of Ukrainian territory. Ukrainian Donbas was, is, and will always be Ukrainian. So we will be fighting. We are fighting for our own land. We do not need any single inch of any other's territory, but we will fight to the end to defend our territory.
Igor Zhovka, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview, and thank you all for watching it.
Thank you.